welcome to the second episode of A Diary of Property Pros. I'm here with my good friend George McNee, and today we're going to talk about how the market's shaping up in 2024 and how we are seeing investors coming on board with us as well. So I'm going to take it away. So George, what do you think? How do you see the market playing out now in the first month of January 2024?
It's you ever been in a nightclub? You're having a good time.
Yeah, sometimes.
You remember being in a nightclub and the lights come on and you go, "Oh, is that over?"
Yeah,
looks like that. I was looking over the property news before we got started. There was a few people have been sending me clips of different predictions. Some of them range from, probably optimistic all the way through to delusion. It's just not factoring in the bigger picture. So there's definitely 2024 is going to be the rise of the super shrewd investor.
Yeah.
And is going to be the fall of the naive investor.
How do you see it playing out? But the market's a bit, it's hard to predict just now, because even with me being in the game just now and buying properties kind of on a weekly basis for ourselves and investors, it's funny, it's as if it's in like different areas. You've got areas where they're still demanding kind of over 5-10k over home report. You've got areas where we're getting them maybe 20k below home report. So it's hard to predict now for me. So what do you think about that?
It's not really anything new. What tends to happen, and I wouldn't read into that as market dynamics. In reality, is actually something different. Is that each area has its own activity. So you get the macro, which is a big picture. So for instance, Scotland has a macro picture, large and the overall view, and it takes everything into account. Now, there's things that over the course of time, there's areas that don't change. They're highly desirable, like St Andrews, for instance, Edinburgh, city centre. There's just areas that aren't as impacted by the outside going-ons, and they're disproportionately high because the buyer pool that would buy those properties are not affected by the mainstream macroeconomic news. That said, there's other areas, like if you look at the other end of the scale, there's other areas that are so run down and in poor shape that even if there was a property boom, they're unlikely to be affected to the upside. They're unlikely to see property prices double or triple or quadruple because the desirability of that area is on the other end of that scale. So in the middle is where it really happens, is that you have people that, dependent on their line of work, what's going on in the area, what jobs are going on in the area, you have these little hot spots and pockets that determine how that market will do, because the property market in each area is just a function of the people that would buy to do whatever it is that they're doing in that area. So if people are feeling good and optimistic, you'll find that you'll have a greater activity, and if there's a little bit of fear or uncertainty, there'll be a reduction in activity, right? So each area has slightly different characteristics. So it's not surprising to me that you can see one area it's still hot, and you can see another area that's cooling off. But what actually happens is that people don't, it's like, see when something happens, does everyone get the news at exactly the same time? They don't, right? So they hear about it, and eventually, like the fifth person down the line goes, I never heard about it, but the four people go, we've knew about it already. Yeah. And that's a bit like the property market is that there's people continuing like there's no tomorrow and everything's going great. They just haven't heard the news yet.
Yeah.
And that's really what happens. Is it's not a case of there's two worlds where this place is really great and glorious and this one is really suffering. It's actually a case of it's just not filtered through. The big picture hasn't filtered through into the smaller areas.
There's no doubt that it is going to crash at some point. I think what's happening as well is, what I'm seeing, there's a lot of estate agents kind of hanging on to it with a thread. They're saying this, everyone's okay, when we both know that it's not, We had a conversation with a few agents this week, and we
was speaking to them about portfolio properties, they have a particular way of selling certain style of properties. So I had a conversation with them, and I says, look, what's the sort of general feel? Because it's a great way to get feedback, because if you get honest feedback from an estate agent, it's actually worth its weight in gold, because you like, for instance, if you think of, right, you get indicators which are lagging, right? Now, an example of a lagging indicator is it's in the news, right? See if it's in the newspaper, it's already happened, right? So you can't predict anything from a lagging indicator.
Yeah.
You get a coincident indicator, which is it's happening right now. So that would, an example of that would be that you're in a position where you can see something unfold and it's happening in front of your eyes. So I mean, it's happening at that moment.
Yeah. And
you get a leading indicator, which is you get information that it is telling you something about what's likely to come next.
Yeah.
Right. And a great leading indicator in the property market is having conversations with the likes of people like surveyors, mortgage brokers, estate agents, and even solicitors, because what they're doing is they're seeing the activity either fall off before it filters up. So they're getting the leading information, which then goes into the coincident information, which is happening now, which then ends up in the lagging information, which means it's in the news. And this is what we discussed last time, whereas, remember, how did you tell me that Stuart Milne was going to go, bust? And I says, well, I can see the leading indicators. I'm reading the leading information. It's going to go, this is going to happen here. And it's that situation where if you get an agent, you can speak to them, it's called understanding the market sentiment. And that's a word for just how's people feeling about it. And what you can get if you get a truthful agent, and it's not to say that they're exaggerating or blustering about their performance, but maybe it's just a case of they might be in that hot area that hasn't been affected yet. Yeah. Everything's great. But if you get most agents, when you speak to them, and like the ones I had the conversation with during the week, they were like totally changed. And they're in a situation where, if you imagine what position an estate agent's in, well, they're trying to keep the buyers happy and the sellers happy. So they're really stuck in the middle. So on one side, they've got a seller going, yeah, we'll get you a fast sale, we'll get you great money, we can do X, we can do Y, so they've got that iron in the fire. And then on the other hand, they've got a buyer who's like, I'm looking for the best deal possible, and I'm ready to go. So they're trying to manage that relationship. I mean, what's happened with estate agents over the last wee while is that they've had a really, really hot market, which means that they're absolutely blown apart sellers' expectations, because they're getting top money very quickly. And they're also they've had buyers kicking their door in to buy properties, saying, we want what you have. Yep. Right. But now that's shifted, and they're telling you, look, it's shifted now, but you still have buyers that think it's 6 months ago. Yeah. You still have sellers that think it's 6 months ago, and we don't have the buyers that are prepared to pay what they're looking for. And that's what I mean. It goes through that expectation change where, yeah, I want 20%, 30% over home report to, right, I'll accept 10. Things that you would notice would be, well, we'll put it to a closing date and everybody can fight over it because it's highest bid. Then things start to show up as fixed price. Then things start to reduce. Then it's offers in the region of, and it's purely experience of doing this for so long that you can see these. It just looks like you go, I have seen this before. But if you've entered into the property market, and I mean, my feed is full of, like, I'm a property guru, I'm a property trainer, I'm a property pro, I'm a property, big ticket item. And I'm like, I've got socks older than these people. I mean, and it's like, how much experience? I'm a big fan of anyone that's starting out giving it a go, right? More power to you. But if you're talking about training people and being a success in the industry, yeah, one of the things that's key to that ability to be successful is experience and wisdom and knowledge. And there's two ways to get wisdom and knowledge. It's either by going through it all the time, or you're with someone who has got that experience and you listen to, because you can have the best of the wisdom in the world, but if you don't listen to the wisdom, then you're just going to end up getting caught in the trap. And that's what I see a lot of, is people making these suggestions and these predictions, and I'm like, it just doesn't look anything like that, because I've seen it before. Like, I've seen it when these things happen.
Going back to estate agents, it's funny. They are funny people. Some of them are okay, some of them aren't. But even going back to like 2022, maybe 6 months into 2023 before things started to dip off a bit. It's hard to get a conversation with an estate agent because obviously the way the
Hard to get a
market was.
conversation.
Yeah, like you would phone them up and some of them wouldn't even want to speak to you. It would be like, it's going to a closing date Monday. And now what I'm seeing is they're actually phoning you, you know, want to know if you put an inquiry in for a property in Rightmove or whatever. They would phone you. We've got this as well. You interested in any of these? It's very funny how it's kind of just shifted over. And even with kind of putting offers in and stuff, you can actually start playing about with it as well. You can go, right, what are they looking for? They would then go back to the seller, try and get the property, if you're going to try and get it below home report or whatever. But even going back a year ago, 12 months, just over a year ago, it was mad. Like you go, right, how much are you looking for it? Well, there's already kind of 13 people seeing it. It's going to a closing date Monday, just like that, without even having a conversation, you know. So it's crazy how it's shifted over so quick now. You know?
Well, they're starting to. You didn't need to schmooze buyers before. You know, buyers were the low end of the food chain. It's like, we've got what you need, so we can be a bit bullish about, you know, how much fees we charge. We don't even need to build a rapport with you. We don't need to find what you're interested in. We're literally just, hey, look, that's it, and you can fight for it. But now, you know, you see a lot of these estate agents, and they're not making the money they used to because the performance isn't there. The amount of sales in the market just isn't there to the great extent. And then what happens is when a property goes on, and I've seen this a lot, where when I was doing the training videos, I was noticing things that I was like, these are telltale signs. Like, I'm noticing little things that I can spot. Yeah. And I'm like, I know what this means.
Yeah.
And it's things that only that wisdom, you only get with that wisdom, because it's like if you've ever seen, you ever been on holiday and like the locals go, yeah, there's a storm brewing, you look up and the skies are blue, you go, there's no way, you know, and they point out, well, have a look out there, you know, out to sea, and they're looking at something, you go, you can't see it, but they know. And then 20 minutes later, it's like Tornado Alley. Yeah. And then 20 minutes after that, it's back to normal. But it's like they knew because they've seen it enough.
Yeah.
But if you wet behind the ears, would never have known.
Yeah.
And it looks like that.
Yeah, go back to like the areas and stuff like that, the way the market's shaping up in different areas. What I'm actually seeing is it's like a price point kind of thing. You're seeing a lot of the low-hanging fruit properties up to maybe 100, 120k that are going quick still. Anything above kind of 150 up to 200k is maybe sitting a bit longer. What do you think that is?
That's easy. I mean, so there's two dynamics that at play, and what people need to get their head round is that the lower end properties have a different dynamic, because if you think just purely on the buyer pool, right, properties above 150 and above,
yep,
right, there'll be a mixture of buyers, and the properties below 150,000 will have a slightly different type of buyer pool. And what I mean by that is that there'll be lots of first-time buyers or investors that will be in the 150 or below pool that won't be in the 150 and above pool. Right, there's two reasons for that. If you're a first-time buyer, you're probably not in a position to go and buy a property. Well, there might be some people, but for most first-time buyers, will look to buy something at the entry level of the market. Right, they want to get started. It's a good idea. So there's more buyers that are first-time buyers in that lower end of the market, and the investment type properties, there'll be more attractive returns at that lower end. When you start to get into the higher end, especially if you're paying things like the additional dwelling supplement, which is second home charge, which is applicable in Scotland, and the stamp duty in some cases, they properties then require a much higher cash outlay.
Yeah.
So it can put people off. And then, for instance, if you've got, say that would be the investor that would be put off, but say you've got a buyer wanting to buy the property above 150, they might be trying to get their property that's below the 150 sold so they can buy the property above 150, and that's called a chain. And it's these reasons that these ones get stuck, because it's not someone new entering the market buying a property who's saved up a deposit. A lot of the times it could be someone who's waiting on a sale of their existing property, purchase a new one.
Yeah.
So that's one side of it. And the second side of it, if you want to really get into it, is interest rates.
Yeah. Even going back to like the stamp duty thing there, what you spoke about, what the way that works is it's 6% up to 145,000, I think. And then if you go over 145,000, they add another 2% on, which makes 8%. So that bumps the cash outlay up even more, you know. So even for investors, that's why a lot of investors are probably kind of going for the low-hanging fruit kind of properties as well. I mean, but if you're going over the 145, it's got to work in numbers. That goes down to obviously what we're doing, the strategies we're using. If you can get the high cash flow outlay that you're putting out, it doesn't really matter, does it?
Well, I mean, it's another thing. Like if I was an agent, you know, if I was an estate agent, these were the things that I would be thinking about. I would be looking at, you know, all the types of properties that we would have on our books between sort of 150 and 160, calculating out what that additional 8% is, because I would be going to the buyers and saying, look, would you be in a position to take 5 or 10k lower, because I think we could move your property into this better bracket. And the reason that this would change is that they would an 8% stamp duty and additional dwelling supplement is going to put off all those buyers, and with because they're needing to pay 8% of the purchase price.
It's a lot.
So would you consider, you know, selling it at this? I think, you know, even just imagine that you were a seller. The fact that your agent knew that would be, you'd be like, yeah, you know your stuff.
We bought one this week for an investor. It was 157,000, I think it was. 155 home report, but it was 157 we got it for. So that just shows you still that we're paying a little bit over for some of the properties. And with the 8% on that, it was something like 12.5 grand stamp duty. So it just shows you the bulk of money that's going to the tax on that, you know. But it didn't really matter because the investor still bought it, obviously, because of the high cash flow that we're getting for them. Because that in that area, we're getting like £200 a night, 70-80% occupancy rate. That's pulling in about £5,000 or £6,000 gross income. So the cash flow is there. That's why you still went for it, you know. Yeah.
The government needs to be very careful, because they're one of the things that we know over history is over-regulation and government overreach destroys markets. And you know, is
that not what they're trying to do? But
well, there's two arguments to it. The argument is on one side you could say, with these actions that you're taking, there's only two outcomes. Right? You're either incompetent, which means you don't know what the consequences of your actions are. So you're going to make this action because you think that it's a good move, but that's going to have unintended consequences, which shows that if you haven't foreseen this, and you haven't got all the staff to work that out, and you haven't listened to the people that have the knowledge and wisdom that's going to do it, then you need to be very, very, very careful. And there's an argument that can be made very, very strongly that you shouldn't be in this role. Yeah. Right? That's a danger for the government, because a government's all about perception, that they've got the right interests and so on. And the last 4 years has proven that's been put to the test, and the government doesn't look good. Yeah. And
good moves if they actually made, but
none.
If you look at it in the property sector over the past how many years, what I can't think of one good move that they've done.
More tax, more regulation, and stifled the market. They've stifled
Instead of being for a landlord, they're against the landlord, you know.
Well, it's craziness. Like some of the things that they suggest. I mean, I done a podcast on my own podcast series about the regulatory framework that the Scottish government used to come to the conclusion that they should regulate a part of the property industry. And if I read through it, and I was like, see if somebody had handed this in as homework, I'd have given them it back and says, look, you've not actually done anything here. This is really poor.
Who's making these decisions, man?
And it's like, but what happens is most people, like, how many people have went and read that 50-page document? Like, they prepare it and people just go, well, it must be so. Mm-hmm. Like, they don't read it. No. But when you read into it, I mean, I think I got to, I didn't even think I got to double digits in pages. I got to, I think, the 8th page, and I'm like, this is garbage. Yeah. Some of the shockers that were in there, like, for instance, fitting a key safe box is a fire hazard. I'm like, what about
a sign?
Like, what
Have you
about
put a sign on the door of that for
what about
it?
all the street signs that you've been putting up for years? Billboards. What about all your you know, posters that you're putting up saying, you know, face, space, and distance, social distancing, which was nonsense. You know, lockdowns, which were unnecessary. This is the people that are telling you that there's a fire risk if you put a key safe in a wall. I've never heard anything as ridiculous in my life. And it's one of these things where you go, look, you need to tread carefully here, because if you want people to stop giving you the benefit of the doubt, you've got to do better than this. And their argument is playing to
we've had enough.
Well, they're playing to the you know, we need to take control of the market and this sort of stuff. And it's like, well, let's go and have a look at where that looked like. Go and have a look at the Soviet Union, where it was communism. Go and have a look at what it was like when you had a socialist state, because that's what they're talking about, where there's not a free market. Go and have a look at how that turned out. Like the fall of the Soviet Union was because it didn't work, right? Then the reason we've had great leaps and jumps in the modern history of the world over the last couple of 100 years is because of something called capitalism. And a lot of people think that's a dirty word, and there's a lot of corruption, right? But there's corruption both sides. But what has capitalism done? I'll tell you what capitalism has done. It's rewarded people for putting in a big effort, right? It's rewarded those that can take a risk. It's also rewarded people that if they want to shine, like if somebody's better than you, they can get a better reward. So do you want to you want to step up to the plate? This is what capitalism has done. And it's if you look at any device, I mean, I put this out to someone who was, you know, messaged about, you know, it should be a socialist state. And I'm like, right, go and have a look at your handset that you've put that on. Right, see every piece of that handset. See the semiconductor chip that came from Taiwan that's in your handset. See all the materials that were developed at all parts of the world. See the ships that were created that shipped it here. See the distribution network that landed it in the store. See the telecommunications provider that your mobile phone company, right? All capitalist. The reason you've got that device to spam that nonsense is because of capitalism. The reason you've got a voice is because of capitalism. The reason that you can use that mobile network is because of capitalism. It is lunacy. Only someone who is completely naive and hasn't looked at the stuff, just like that 50-page report, could say something as outrageous as that.
That's mad. Because
everything, like, it's price competition. Can you do it better? Can you do it cheaper? Can you provide a better service? It's all about improving. That's how we've evolved. That's how we've got to where we're at, where we've got such an amazing world that we're in now, that we've actually continually evolved.
Some of the decisions that are getting made now, but it's as if we're taking 2 steps back, 1 step forward, 3 steps back, 1 step forward. You know, the things that they're trying to do for the people that are actually listening to them, but we've also got other people on the other side where they're going, that had enough, we're not listening to you anymore.
But I mean, the positive thing is that I've had some conversations which start off, well, I think you're wrong, right? And this is what it was a different dynamic a few years ago, because it would be contentious, meaning that you would just lock heads with people. And I've had a few conversations with people that have been on the complete opposite end of a conversation or a point of view or opinion to me. And I've says, right, let's have a look at this. Let's have a look at the information. Right, why don't you tell me what you think, right? And I'll show you how I've came to my conclusions. We'll see if we can we bridge the gap. And more often than not, if you're having a conversation where you're saying to people, look, I'm not going to shove my point of view down your throat, but just if you want to take a look, and I'll take a look at yours. See, when the type of conversations happen, people become a lot more clued into what's going on. And sometimes, very occasionally, I can say to people, I've never thought of it that way.
Shifting people's mindset, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's good, and it's especially good when you have someone who has been completely opposed and locked into their point of view, and you have a conversation, and they've come up with something great, but you go, hey, you know, that was really quite good, because I didn't know that, or I didn't see it from that point of view. So I'm learning something. But also, when you show them the things that you've learned, they're like, whoa, I never knew it. But it's like that. You go, oh, well, now that you mention it, well, that now it actually works.
But
it seems to be that shift from some of the issues that have stemmed from the last 3-4 years have put people in that frame of mind where they can take a shift.
Yeah, it's not all doom and gloom for people like us as well, but because of the way things that are shifting and the bad things that are happening, there's always opportunity, isn't there? So
Well, the way to be ahead of the curve is not to be biased in the way you want things to be. It's more about handling the things as they are.
Yep.
And also, if you can add in the ability to get ahead by reading the leading indicators, you can then predict what's likely to happen next. Add that to ability to adapt, and you've got a superpower.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, that's a superpower.
You've got to see it from a different angle, haven't you? You've got to watch it from a different angle instead of kind of following the curve of what everybody else is doing.
That's, if you do what everybody else is doing, you'll get what everybody else has got.
That's it.
Is that where you want to be?
Nah, never. Let's talk about the coaching community thing that you're starting up. Where are you with all that now? How's that kind of panning out?
It's good. The coaching community is there because one of the things that I would say, if there was one material change that I think can make a significant difference, is improving people's mindset. Not just from, the performance point of view or, big goals and dreams in terms of materialism, but also
even what we're speaking about there.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff.
Like taking people and getting the most out of them. I think there's nothing more satisfying to someone inwardly than them seeing themselves improve. Right? And the biggest thing that gets in the way, the number one thing that gets in the way, isn't external factors, isn't circumstances.
Yeah.
It's their own mind.
If you put the work in as well.
If you want the master key to the universe, it's inside your mind. And that unbelievably clever part of machinery that's in there, that grey matter, that incredible supercomputer that exists between your ears, if you use that, you can unlock your wildest dreams.
What you're building in the background as well, but and going forward, the stuff that you're building, you're going to be able to unlock that in a lot of people. People that have got the potential.
Well, they do, and I don't think that there's anyone out there. I don't know of anyone that's at their maximum potential. I know many people that are extremely successful. Well, you can be the exception to the rule.
I'm getting better.
You want improvement. That's what you want. You want constant improvement, and that sense of getting better and improving. It's like when you start a journey, you go walk. And you look outside and it's raining, you go, should I put my shoes on? That's his mindset, right? Before you start something. See, when you get out and you've got your shoes on and you get started and you get used to the rain, then you start to enjoy it. That's what shifting your mindset's like, because you start to enjoy this internal progression of finding out what you've got, finding out who you are. Who am I? I recount a story about, because I was the same. It was before sort of lockdown, partying, having a good time, mischievous, nothing dramatic, but just not getting the most out of myself. And I remember making a change during lockdown. We got cycling up the hills. Made
got you into all that stuff.
A big. I would. You were the start taking me up the Crow Road. I was a difficult day out. And that for there, I never stopped. And my youngest son Ted. And it's funny because I always say you need to be really careful about who you're in. You need to be careful about what you do, and especially what you don't do, because you have no idea who's watching you. And now, I've never had, at this point that I'm referring to, Ted had never seen me on a mountain, in terms of we'd never climbed a mountain together. We have since, but up until this point, he hadn't seen his dad on a mountain.
Yeah.
We got a new TV, one of these sort of ultra definition, like super duper, ultra clear, huge TVs, and I thought I'll check how good the definition is. So I put on 8K definition in Switzerland. But I mean, my word, this was incredible. And Ted is, I can't remember what age he was. He'd probably be 5, 4, 5. Must have been 5. And he's looking at the TV, and it's the mountain in the Alps in Switzerland. And he's looking at it, and he's saying, he's turning, and he went, "Daddy, could you climb that?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yeah." And it's like, there's a little kid you don't know you're directly influencing him, and he's looking at that big mountain and going, my dad could climb that.
Yeah.
And he's going, my dad climbs mountains, could he climb that? That's the importance of your mindset. You have way more in you than you know.
Yeah.
And whether it's your kid or your brother or sister or somebody you're close to, a complete stranger. Like,
don't do it just for yourself. Like,
it's not about yourself. It's about, I'd done a podcast on the After School's a great YouTube channel. I think they're on all the social media channels, but I've seen them on YouTube. They do the drawings. They'll have a great speech, or they'll have a great character or personality on, and they'll literally draw artwork to tell that story.
Yeah.
And the channel's called After School. They had Napoleon Hill that spoke about the top 20 habits of highly successful and highly positive people. And one of the things that were in there, and I may be, forgive me if I get this wrong, but one of the habits was do unto others, because what you do for others, you do unto yourself. And it means that how you act and behave can influence others, and how you act and behave with others is a reflection of you.
Yeah.
And I remember, I tell you a story about that. I remember going to, I can always get them mixed up. It was Aldi or Lidl. I was on the way to the studio. So I popped in, there was a big issue seller outside, and it was pouring with rain. Like, for people who don't live in Scotland, when we say pouring with rain, right, we've got a word, pissing down, which means literally the heavens have opened. So I've it
doesn't just rain.
Yeah, it's this type of rain that submarines would struggle to keep the water out. So I've ran into the store, and I've said to the guy, look, I'm seeing my way out. And I thought to myself, this guy, I'm like, fair play to you. Like, you're selling these books that I'm not sure. I've never met anyone that's referred to reading The Big Issue. I've never met anyone that's went, I'm a big avid fan of that. So I don't imagine that they're easy to sell. And the people that sell them, I think, hat off to you, because that can't be easy, right? So I jumped into Aldi and bought my whatever I was looking for, honey and nuts and protein shakes, and came out, and I didn't have any cash. I'm like, right, I'll need to pay by card, because I thought I've jumped out the car without picking up my wallet, because it's been pouring down, and I was in a nice car. Like I said to the guy on the way out, I says, how much is your book? So it was £4 or something, and I says, look, I've got cash in the car. I'll drive by. I still drive by. I says, I'm running a bit late, but I'll give you money for the book. So I pulled up beside him. I put my window down. I've handed him a £5. I says, like, just keep the change. And he's like, oh man, like, face is lit up. Yep. Amazing car, like, unbelievable. And it was in the Porsche. Right, nice. So I said to him, I says, look, I love what you're doing. Keep selling. I says, I'm a big fan of that. Like, you're trying. And I'm thinking to myself, what, like, that guy's face is lit up. I've not thought anything of it. And what have you done for him there? I know, and I'm looking at him going, look, I really admire what you're doing. Yeah. I'm saying, look, you could have a choice to sit in your house. You don't need to be out in the pouring rain. You don't need to be selling this book that's difficult to sell. Hat off to you, man. Like, that's a start. Like, you've started. Good on you.
Yeah. And that's all you need to do is start.
And I think that's what the habit is I could have went back to the car. I could have ignored them. I could have said, I've not got cash, I'll see you next time. But I was like, man, I'm going to go and I'll find a £5 in my car somewhere. And pulled up next to the guy was, and I don't know, he might have been a complete petrolhead. He might have been able to tell me more about this car. It's 0 to 60 time, how much pressure the turbos put out and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. I was overjoyed. And you can see that where he's like, someone's like not ignored them. Someone's not sort of just looked at him like he's just the idiot. They've went out their way to go back to their car, pull up beside them. Yeah. It just so happens it's a fast car, so he's probably and I didn't think it like that. And afterwards I thought, what's it like from his point of view? because the very first thing is try and see from other people's perspectives. And I thought, what does that look like to him? So be careful who you influence. You should be, you know, if you can be good and people are good, if they're trying, then, you know, encourage them.
Yeah, definitely. Even in the community thing that you're trying to build, like you'll get people coming in that are stuck and they don't know what to do and they don't know where to go, and it's about helping people as well, isn't it? You've got to kind of help them on their journey. Obviously, people need to put the work in.
But you get people that have, I mean, I've seen people that have materialistically got everything that you could ever want. They've got all the cars, all the money, all the property, all the fancy jewellery, all the glitz, all the glam, and they are lonely and terrified and don't know who they are and completely lost.
Yeah.
And then you go to the other end of the scale where you've got someone who has been through hell, and I mean proper hell, not that BS victimhood hell, like, you don't know what I've been through, I'm so suffering my journey. It's like, no, proper, proper hell, like real hell, like stuff that even I go, oh, you've well, fair play for you pushing through. And they've got nothing but a dream. They've got their shirt on their back and a dream, right? And you it's knowing how you can go to extreme ends where you go, look, I know what you need, and know how to help, because they both need a shift, and if you help them make that shift, they will fly.
Yeah. Back to the victimhood thing, I've got absolutely no time for people like that, because as you said, there's people out there that have went through some shit, man, in their life, you know, and they just get up the next day and they get on with it. They push on, you know. Mm-hmm. I mean, yesterday was yesterday. Tomorrow is a new day, as people say. So there's always a way forward. See, if you want to put the work in and you want to get out there and make something in your life, you can do it. You know, anybody can do it.
I said this. My greatest fear is I was interviewed recently and they asked how I handled fear, and I rather bullishly, you know, I says I don't have any fears. No. Like, my greatest fear is of what if I didn't. Like, I literally don't honor a morsel of self-doubt. I don't have a self-doubt. What does it do for you? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. What is fear? What really is fear? Mm-hmm. Uncertainty. Right, what's the alternative? Right, let me look at the alternative. If I do nothing, my life stays exactly here. Is that an adventure? Absolutely not. Yeah. The fear is, what if you let it get to your deathbed and you've done nothing in your life and you had all the opportunities to do something special, something that you'd be proud of, something your kids would be proud of, something that people went, it was amazing that you went, you took the shot, you took the chance. That's what life's about. Imagine sitting there in your deathbed looking back and going, I could have done X, Y, Z and not doing any of that. That's a fear. You should fear that rather than...
To one of the episodes you done a few weeks ago about a very good friend of yours who's just getting started, you know, and then obviously what happened, you know, it's mad to think that you've wasted all the years doing nothing, you know, and then you're about to get started and you don't know what's around the corner. Yep.
You don't know when your time's up. And I was just glad that my friend Paul gave a shot. He gave it a shot. Yeah. You know, and he got a taste. Well, I think that would have been worse. Yeah. I think, see, if you'd given him the choice between having an early, like a reasonably early death, but having a good throw at the dice and seeing the win, versus a long life, he would have never been happy. He would have really been really unhappy. Yep. And I'm really glad that he got a shot at it. Yeah. I mean, I reckon if you gave him that choice, again, I would guess that would be he would take he would take that choice because it's a life worth living.
It's great. It's great that you're building this thing because it's going to help loads of people. You know, so hit George up, geomcnee.com. It's going to be really exciting, the stuff that's going to be coming out, you know. I'm looking forward to it.
We're already starting. We're doing a beta testing now, so we've got a few people in the beta testing. It's just like they're blown away. They're absolutely blown away, going, I never thought that you could
change people's lives, mate.
And it's simple stuff. Like, it's not difficult to do, and the changes are massive.
Helped me as well. Like, you mentored me. Like, I would never have got to where I've got to if you didn't obviously helped me get to this point. So I can hand in heart say that it works, you know. If you put the work in, that is.
Well, to the point that we made earlier on is there's two ways of getting experience and wisdom. You either go through it and you learn how to do it yourself, or you listen to someone who's been there and done it. That's the two ways. Again, if you're prepared, you were prepared to. I would say not all the time, but more times than not, you were like, yeah, like that's the key to it. And I think you'll even know yourself that there's you listen to me more now than you did at the start. Yeah. And that's just part of the process. Because you get there.
You go through the bumps. Definitely go through the bumps, but like I wouldn't have had it any other way, because all the stuff that you failed at and all the bumps, the hurdles that we had to go through, you learn from all that. You know, it's not as if you're just going to go from there to there in 2 years. It's like there, boom, you know. And when you get to that point, you need to go back and say, right, how did that happen to get back to that point again? You know.
A great friend, Chris, who mentored me when I was learning to study the world of investment banking, investments, and the world of sort of stocks and trades and things. And he had an expression. He says, "Nothing moves up and down in a straight line. No. Nothing goes up in a straight line."
Great, that, isn't it?
So it's like expect the volatility.
I would never had it any other way.
Because it make everything that you are today is through those hardships. Yeah. Like you didn't learn anything. You didn't learn anything for your wins. It's the struggles that get you there. Like making your way through the struggles is what get you there.
The difficulty is like nowadays, but people don't want to go through the struggles. They want to just see, oh, this is great. So that's what I think is going to be hard with some people. Shifting their mindset into that.
And the thing is the cop out. There's two things that go on at the moment. It's the cop out mentality, or the weakness, or the victimhood, or the inner bitch. It's got various names, but it's all the same thing. And the second thing is a sense of entitlement. So they think that the world owes them something, and that's part of like what I think is the issue with some of the principles. The socialist point of view is like, right, so you expect somebody will just give you something, you don't need anything in return. Like, no, like earning something is really powerful, and not in the whatever you earn part, but the fact that you feel that you earned something, like an achievement, or you got a result, or you finished the race, or whatever, you achieved something.
Yeah, I seen a nice quote a couple of months ago, and I'm still trying to shift my mindset into it. I think I'm 99% there with it. Is if you say you're going to do something, do it. You know, if you say you're going to get up at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, get up at fucking 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. Well, if you say you're going to go to the gym at 10 o'clock, go to the gym at 10 o'clock. Yep. Don't get to that point and go, I'll just leave it till tomorrow. You know, I was so bad for that in my days of kind of learning this trade. But I'm getting there now. I'm booking stuff in the night before, and I'm getting it done and ticking the boxes, and it's improving tenfold for me, you know.
So is your 1% because you didn't make the Fast Crew spicy chain gang ride?
That isn't a cycle, mate. That's not a cycle. That's Death's Door.
It is. You're going through the gates of hell.
I was kidding you on it. I was going to that.
People were asking for you, like, where's your boy? I thought he was going to show up.
A Wednesday night's good enough.
Another lamb for the slaughter. Well, it is like 60 minutes of.
But you kick off at 350 watts. Come on.
Mm-hmm. That's all right.
How can you hold that out, man?
So I managed to win last night. I took a win.
I seen it.
I took a win. But it's just
touch.
I keep telling her, I warn them every time. I'm like, do not. If you want to win, you need to start. You need a long distance attack. You cannot have me close to you with the finish line in sight. But you cannot lead out a sprinter because they're killers. Yeah. They're apt. It's like a shark sensing blood in the water. 3 miles out, they know, like, there's a win here.
I was telling somebody in the gym about it the other day, about the Wednesday night thing and the Thursday night one, and I was saying George there, he does like over 2,000 watts in the sprint. He's like, what? He's like, I can only do like 800 watts. And I was saying the Thursday night one, they hold out like 350 watts for an hour, and I'm like,
it's savage. I mean, there's times
fitness, man.
I'm not built for the Thursday night ones, but I still like to test myself. And there's times where they've just obliterated me, and I mean literally, like they turned it on and annihilated me to bits.
Yeah.
It's just like the fitness that they've got is just blistering. You know, and I can hold my own, but if they, you know, if they're tactical, I'm up against it. I'm completely up against
Just
it. They're that good.
Just imagine if I never got you started in cycling all the years ago, you would never have been here.
I know. Well, imagine what I do imagine is how good you'd have been if you stuck to it like me.
I'm getting there.
You'd have probably been smashing the Thursday nights.
Oh, we're getting there. Don't worry about that. Good stuff. So go back to the property market then. What's the plans for you this year?
Well, the property market, as I said in one of my other videos, was that I explained how the property market works, and I explained what influences the property market.
Yeah.
And what we're going to see is a huge change in sentiment, as in we're going to shift from the seller's market to the buyer's market. Now, that won't happen overnight.
Yeah. Interest rates got a lot to play in this.
Interest rates are the key component.
Yeah. It's amazing before you push on with this. Like, people go, oh, the interest rates have went up. The interest rates like 5-6%. Like, that's a normal kind of percentage for interest rates. If you look back at the years go back, you know, like the 1-2% that we were getting was all great. You know, it's pushed up to a kind of normality interest rate percentage.
How many people do you think truly understand what interest rates are and what part they play in the property market?
Not many.
Like, give me a number, give me a percentage.
Got to be less than 50 anyway.
The key component part of interest rates is that it is the cost of money. So if you put that money into the bank, it's the percentage that the bank will earn having that money, and you'll see that in a savings account. And if you take a borrowing, it's the cost to borrow that.
Yeah.
So the lower the cost to borrow, the more people can borrow, because they have a salary or an income that they can use to pay the cost, and we know that is interest.
Yeah.
If you make that cost really small, then people can borrow more, and because the interest rate side of it. So if you have one side which is borrowing and one side which is saving, right? If you're not getting a high interest rate in savings because the interest rate's low, then it fuels speculation, because the cash is now trash. Having money in the bank is now worth nothing. So it looks for places. Capital follows hot money. Mm-hmm. So that means that people will take their capital and put it into places to generate more performance. So you've seen a lot of people drain their savings account and put it into speculate into stocks, bonds, other types of assets. Now that's called the risk curve, where they'll go further up the risk curve to get more performance, more yield, more cash flow. And if you combine cheap interest rates with a market that's being fueled and people that have no advantage holding on to their money, you've got a boom.
Yeah.
Right? But what comes with boom is a bust. And what you need to work out is, when does the boom end and when does the bust finish? Well, one of the ways that you can make that bust start is by raising the cost of what it is to borrow that money. And particularly if your boom part is being speculated on really, really, really cheap money.
Yeah.
What I mean by cheap money is the interest has been small, so the cost to borrow that money that's fueled the boom is tiny. If you crank the lever up to go, look, let's turn that up, then what happens is they can't afford the amount of money that they've borrowed, so they need to sell. And if they sell, up, down. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a very simplistic way of explaining it. And that, what I mean by that is the key important part of this is how dramatic that lever of turning the interest rates up or down has been. So you turn it down, it's fueled the speculation up. If you turn it up, it's going to cause the crash on the way back down. That's why when I seen the Martin Lewis clip and he had the chief economist, who economists have the worst track record at predicting anything. I interviewed the foremost economist in the world, who has called out all economists as being complete fools when it comes to forecasting. They could not forecast that they would hit water if they jumped out of a boat. They've got the worst track record out of anyone in the industry.
Anything they say.
So they they are saying that the prices will change 1 to 2%. That's nonsense. I've got news for you. Let me tell you right now, there's going to be, when the time comes that these fixed rates come to an end on these low interest rate mortgages, people are going to be forced to sell.
Yeah.
And I've done 3 videos on it, on the property course, that show you what to look for and to show you what to do and what you should do. So what does that mean? And your question was, what's the year of property look like? Well, it's the time to get involved in the market, because there's going to be a lot of sellers. There's a time that there's opportunity to get better prices than you've ever done in recent times. But more specifically, in what we've honed in on, is there is 90% of deals out there that you shouldn't look at the moment, right? And then there's about 5% of deals that it's worth a look, and then there's another 5% of deals that it does not matter what's going on. These are pin-on, linchpin deals, and if you can work out the strategy on how to do those 5% and know how to find them, you are the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
And you're literally changing your future by building a portfolio that will just sit head and shoulders above everything else. Yeah. And it can set not only yourself up, your family, because you're getting it dialed in so well.
We're already doing that at the moment.
We've been doing it. I mean, how long have I been saying that interest rates are going to go up? Yeah. So I've been reading the leading indicator for a long time. Yeah. And I'm like, we need to pivot now. So the more we pivot into that 5%, the bigger the shift is. So it's literally people are just starting to think, oh, I need to do something, and they're at that. They are so far away down that line, and they're going. What are we doing? Like, we've been doing this for years. This is the advantage of doing it. This is the advantage of learning to forecast, learning to understand the market, learning to pivot, learning to be adaptable.
Don't give too much away at the moment, because you're educating people here, and that's already the stuff that we're going to be doing in the community in the course.
We'll keep
just scratch the surface here.
We'll just leave it at tasters then.
Yeah, it's mad. Like, it's like the interest rates are probably about 5%, 6%, 7% just now. I don't think they're going to go back to what they were ever. What do you think? Well,
the question is, when people say, is interest rates going to go down?
Yeah.
What they're really asking is, are interest rates going back to what they were? The answer's no.
You get a lot of people on calls, like, see investors that are phoning up and coming to jump on board with us. I think I'm just going to wait till the interest go back down. I'm like, you'll be waiting a long time, if any, you know.
I'll give you an example. I would speak to people in 2008 that would want to sell their house, or 2009 that wanted to sell their house. I'm like, it's 30% below what you think it was. And they're like, I'll wait for property prices to go back up. Do you know how long they waited? Right. 11 years. It was 11 years before they went back to the prices that they were at.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, you can wait. How long that is, I don't know. But if you're talking about you've came to a decision, you need to do something in the near future, and your strategy is, I'll wait. That's not going to happen. That's
you want to just keep an investment for a couple of years and sell up. Like, if you're wanting this game and you get the right property and you're getting the right cash flow, be in it for the long term. You know, ride the storm.
Also, be prepared to pivot.
Yeah.
So look at strategies, find out who's doing what, tap into what they're up to, get involved with them. You know, if they provide that service.
That's what's happening. Yeah, that's what we're getting. A lot of people coming to us now, because we can educate them on how the markets are going and get their money to work for them. You know, instead of sitting in the bank making nothing and even losing money sitting in the bank. You know, so it's about working with the right people. You get a lot of people out there that are newbies into the game and they've not really got a clue what they're talking about. You're seeing that a lot. Even investors that we're speaking to ourselves. They're coming to us and they've got a lot of bad experiences with kind of sources that are just coming out courses and stuff like that. Yes, everybody's got to start somewhere, but don't just come in and say, I'm this, I'm that. You need to educate yourself in the markets and put people in the right places and get their money in the right places, you know?
Yeah, I mean, since I've started talking about the property course, my feed is just rammed with
newbies.
Like newbie. I know, like, I'm all for people starting out, but
we're all newbies at one point, you know?
See some of the, like, I'm like, this is chaos.
Yeah.
This is carnage. And it's more about, like, they're all doing the same thing. It's just all the same. and I seen it before. There was loads of sources in like 06, 07, 08. Everybody was sourcing deals.
Dying off.
And then see when the market crashed, it was like Mad Max 2. It was like literally there was tumbleweed blowing back. Where did everybody go?
Yeah.
Because it was like, well, there's not an up market, but just a mass exodus. And the reason that happens is they're not used to what to do in a down market. They're not used to do, like, they don't know that.
No.
Like if you've been in, like if you've, let's say you've got a property dream and you want to start, like you start with nothing and you want to start sourcing, and you set up an Instagram page and you use all the buzzwords and you say all the right sort of stuff and it sounds jazzy and you use your hands a lot, yeah, you know, and you're doing all that thing and it's like, okay, right, good that you're starting out, right? But if all you know is a market that's done this, it's went up,
yeah,
then that's all you know. Like, and what happens when that changes? Because we're seeing that, we're going through that change at the moment. And, you know, as I allude to in the property course, I've been through up markets, down markets where liquidity is dried up. Like, so banks just aren't lending money. I've been in markets where there's been risk in the European banking sector.
Yeah.
I've been through them all. So I understand the little nuances, what changes, what shifts, what to look out for, and more importantly, what to do when it happens.
This property course that you're building is going to be second to none. As we spoke about, I think it was last week, like all the kind of courses that you're seeing now are all sunshine and rainbow things. Like you come to this course, you're going to get the 6-figure portfolio, blah, blah, blah. It's all going to be great. But in the thing that you're building, the course that you're building, it's like showing all the dynamics of each market, you know. It's going to be exciting to see this.
The way I think of it is like, if you ever seen, I used to watch the documentary series like Air Crash Investigation.
Yeah.
Right? Aeroplanes are the best safety history out of all vehicles. Right, so it's a bit like property. Property is an incredible investment vehicle, just like aeroplanes are an incredible way to travel. Like they're safe. Like the death rate per user is extremely low on aircraft. Well, properties like that, it's safe.
Safest houses.
They say safest houses, and it's like, that's the reason it's known. And right, does it mean that there's no risks? No. So what happens when there's a risk? So see, if you watch Air Crash Investigations, a pilot pulls out a manual and they go through checklists of, is it this, is it that, is it they're establishing, if something's wrong, what is it that's wrong, and what do we do about it if it's wrong, right? And that's why they train in the simulators, like, you know, let's crash land on water, let's crash land on land, let's, how do we deal with if we run out of fuel? How do we deal if there's a malfunction in an engine? Like, they've got training as in, right, it is great and it is the safest thing out of all of them, but in the event that X, Y, Z happens, here's the list and what to do.
Yeah.
Right, so that's what this course is like, right, this is an amazing vehicle, right, but you need this checklist, and here's what to do, here's what to spot, here's what to look for. And it's that sort of complete picture, so that like, you could do this and never have any problems, right? But there's going to come a time, if you did have a problem, you're going to be like a rabbit in the headlights, because you don't have the checklist. Yeah. If you have the checklist, then you're going to be good. Yeah,
it's going to be exciting. And again, you can go onto George's website, geomcnee.com, for updates on how this is all going to pan out over the next couple of weeks. So, yeah, it's been another good podcast. Thanks again.
It's been good.
Some good things that we dived deep into there about the property market and interest rates and how things are panning out in the first month of the year. So, thanks again.
You're welcome. Even if you want to suggest, for you listeners out there that have tuned into the episode, if you have some property related questions, hit us up. Reach us on our social media channels. We can put out a vote. You can DM us. You can put them in the comments. Anything you want to cover off, there's no limits. There's no hold bars. We'll go wherever you want to go. If you want to talk about sourcers, interest rates, gurus, educational courses, seminars, what happens next? Should you buy property? Should you not? What should you do? If there's any particular topics that's out there that you want us to cover off, let us know, and we'll do them on the podcast, because I think that's the key to it here is that we're real conversations with people that are not just talking the talk. We're walking the walk. We'll give you the good, the bad, and ugly. And I'm sure you want to. We could even do an episode on all the disasters. Like you want to hear about the chaos. We've had every single thing. Like, I still don't think there's something I've not had yet, and I'm sure life will find me it. But if we could do it, we could probably do a couple of episodes on just the bananas events out of property.
There's plenty of them.
So we should put it out to people to hit us up, and reach out. And we'll do a couple of episodes with the comments and the Q&A from the viewers.
That'll be good, definitely. You can get us on all our socials as well, Instagram, stuff like that. So we'll leave some links below after the podcast is finished. You can hit us up and see kind of stuff we're up to on a daily basis on all the projects we're working on at the moment, all the deals that we're sourcing for clients, etc. So yeah, we'll leave that in the comments below as well.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this second episode of Diary of a Property Pro. We covered everything there from celebrities in the news that are claiming that they know what's happening next, all the way through to does interest rates matter, and is your sourcer really going to cut the mustard when it comes to property deals, and will they still be there after the market crashes? It's real talk, real conversations, and it's the way that we will reach out to people out there who do have a property investment dream. And if you want to get involved in it, then I would certainly say there is no better place, but do it with the eyes that it's not all sunshines and rainbows, that it can be tricky. If you want to hit us up on all our social media channels, links will be in the show notes below. We'll be in we'll have new pages set up, the Diary of the Property Pro. You can hit us up there, give us a follow, be sure to share it around, and we'd love to hear from you. We'll get some of these Q&As into the next episodes. And from us this week, that's a wrap.